is going on, guys? Welcome back. And today we have a beautiful little bike with us, and this is a 2021 Royal Enfield Interceptor 650. Of course, if you know about the Interceptor 650, it is a 648cc that's putting out about 47 horsepower and about 38 or 39 foot-pound of torque. Beautiful little bike. This bike belongs to Dylan from Throttle Company. So what's the story? Why do I have his bike? Well, last night I went to bike night. I rode a newly acquired GL1200 SEI, so that's the fuel injected model from 1985. And the bike was fine and everything. But when I was about to leave, it was about 10:30 p.m. or so, and I found out that I had no running lights. So no tail light, no running light, and it wasn't really safe to ride that way. So we tried swapping out the fuses and checking a few things out, and nothing. So, and he decided to let me borrow his bike so I could get home safe. So that was super nice of him. I'm telling you guys, it's a fun little bike. Now, the interesting thing about it is that he, as you can see this, if you're familiar with the 650 Interceptor, you'll notice that this one looks a bit different. And that's because he has done some mods to it and actually turned it into a scrambler. So he made a little series of videos on the Throttle Company page, YouTube page, about the build. So I'll link those down so you guys can check them out. But really quick though, we're just gonna go over the stuff that I know that he changed to make this bike into what it is. So the most obvious one is this SNS exhaust. I believe the model on this is Qualifier 2-in-1. And the air box also, the air filter has been upgraded, and I think there's a plate in front of the filter now that allows more air to come through, as well as there's a little device that was added to give the bike a bit more fuel. So you got more air, more fuel, and a better exhaust, which basically equals into a way better flow throughout the combustion system overall, which definitely improves things. In my opinion, the bike definitely leans more than they usually do, and I think that's because the tires might have added a little bit to the height. All right, so exhausts look really good, but my favorite part about it is how it sounds. And so I'm gonna fire the bike up and we'll see if we can actually capture the true sound of this exhaust on the video. And you know how it goes, that microphones usually don't do justice to the exhaust, but we'll try and see what we get. Alright, enough with the sound. Let's actually take it for a ride. Man, this bike sounds good. Quick, let's go over controls on this thing. And being a Royal Enfield, it's pretty standard. I think controls are pretty standard on most bikes nowadays. Anyways, starting on the left, you got the horn at the bottom, turn signals, high beam, low beam, passing lights. On the right, kill switch, running, and then the start button. Pretty simple. And then you got a beautiful analog gauge in the middle, two of them, one for the speedo, one for the tach, which are really cool. And the speedo has this little cat out that give you a bunch of more digital informations, like like a fuel and the odometer and stuff like that. It's really nice. Now, enough with this. Let's talk about this bike specifically. Man, I can't get over that exhaust, how well it sounds. I kind of want to just keep revving the bike because it sounds so good. So getting back to the bike, of course it's an Interceptor. Specs on it, as I mentioned, it puts about 47 horsepower. That's really not that much in the world of motorcycles nowadays. But the thing that is interesting is looking at spec as the whole package, you know, like the bike that this small engine or whatever is put into, does it make sense? And in the case of the Interceptor, yes, it makes perfect sense. This bike is the way it is. I mean, I'm not gonna call a bike perfect because there's always things that can be better, but I want to say this is really, really good. And especially for the price point of these motorcycles, I think, don't quote me on this, but I think this bike is around 5,300 US dollars. I think, don't quote me on that. I don't remember exactly the price off the top of my head. Really, when you take the Interceptor 650, which is already a pretty cool little bike on its own, and you enhance the fueling, you get a better exhaust, and of course you increase the airflow, that really wakes up the bike. Now, I don't know if this thing has been dynoed exactly to know if there's actually any changes to the horsepower numbers, and I'll be honest with you, personally I don't think there's much. If anything, maybe half a horsepower or maybe one, but that's not the point. The point I'm trying to make is how lively this bike is, how quickly it revs up, how quickly it accelerates, and how it responds basically to the throttle. That's what I'm pointing out. So basically, I would, if you ask me personally, I would say I don't think these mods are getting you much power, but they change the bike into pretty much a different bike and makes it feel a lot different. And one of the things that I want to point out is the seat. Man, it's so fun to rev this bike. Anyways, back to the seat. Looking at those seats, they may look uncomfortable, but if you're thinking that they're uncomfortable, you're wrong, because they are pretty comfortable. That flat seat and everything, and it's long enough that you can ride two up with it. Now, I have not ridden two up on an Interceptor, but riding solo, the seat feels really comfortable. And one of the things that I love about it is the fact that it's completely flat, so I can slide all the way back if I want to or need to. I don't know why I would want that. Maybe if I'm trying to get into a tough position. Regardless, it's there. Seat is great. And brakes on this, I don't think anything were done with the brakes. There's still the standard by Brie, which is short for by Brembo. So basically, it's a Brembo owned company that makes those brakes that comes in the Royal Enfield. That's why you will see the brand name on it says by Brie. It's supposed to mean by Brembo. So obviously they come from Brembo to a certain degree, so I expect some quality out of them. And of course they're not the best, and they're pretty small, and I'm not judging them, because to be honest with you, I think they're sufficient for what this bike needs. So up front you got a 2-piston caliper and then a single piston in the rear, and paired with that ABS system that's on the bike, I think they do the job really well. So far I've only been riding this bike, well, I rode it last night and now I'm riding it this morning, and I've never felt like I needed more braking power. I do have to say that the front lever feels a little soft, but once the pad actually touches the disc, the pressure comes on and they firms up really good. It's just the initial touch that is soft, but no complaint about the brakes at all. And the last thing I want to touch up is those knobby tires. I'm telling you, from my perspective, they make the bike look really good and really aggressive. And to be honest with you, it definitely looks like something that can handle a little bit of gravel. And I'm not taking this thing off-road to any single trail like where I would take the Himalayan, for example, because the Himalayan is a proper off-road bike, but this is not. But I think in a pinch, if I need to, yes, I will follow someone that's on the Himalayan up whatever road they may go up to. And finally, to just cap on my last thought of this bike, and because I don't want to make this video too long, it's really, I'm just gonna touch up on the engine again. As I mentioned, you know, it's a 648cc parallel twin that's put out about 47 horsepower, and it's paired with a 6-speed transmission, and that transmission is really nice. And I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe this thing is actually equipped with a slipper clutch, which makes the shifting experience so smooth. You won't believe how smooth it is and how light that clutch is. Alright, so my final thoughts on the bike. It's really good. I really like it. It's really nimble. It's not a super powerful bike, but all the power is there when you need it. I feel like for my time riding this bike, I never felt like I needed more power. Now, I didn't take this on the highway because the route that I was taking to get home, and of course now going back, is it's all local and some back roads, and of course I like riding on back roads better. But this bike, so as far as I know, it has no problem riding on the highway. Now, I don't know exactly how it would feel with those tires on the highway going, I don't know, 70, 80, but I never noticed anything. I want to say a big thank you to Dylan for, you know, letting me use his bike. Again, this is his own personal bike that he let me use to get home last night so that I can, you know, get home. If you guys own an Interceptor and have done some mods on it, so definitely let me know what you've done and how it behaves after those mods, and do you like him, do you not like him? I've actually been wanting to get the Himalayan so I can do some off-road, but I'm actually thinking about this bike more and more now. Of course, one thing I do want to point out is that, for example, the exhaust itself, I think that's a $700 or $800 upgrade. Oh, and by the way, this is for the race only version, and I believe the street legal version cost a lot more than that. Now, depending on where you are, if you don't have to go through an inspection to get your registration, you can get away with the race only one. But if you're in a place like California, I believe you can't, because they will inspect the crap out of your bike before, you know. So I wanted to point that out. So that's the other thing. So really, when I like this bike, if I were to get a bike, this is the one that I would want to get. But as of right now, I don't know exactly how much money he had to put in this bike to make it this bike right now. So that's another thing to consider. So because I'll be honest, my budget is, you know, pretty low, so I may not be able to get this. I may have to just go with the Himalayan. Anyways guys, thanks for watching the video. If you're riding, ride safe, and I will see you in the next one.